Aloha! Welcome to today's episode of Shrink Wrap. I am Stephen Katz. I'm a marriage and family therapist here on Oahu. And I have my first repeat guest today, Paul McCurdy, who is an advanced Tantra educator. Welcome back, Paul.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I have to tell everybody, between now and the last time we met, I was lucky enough to participate in Paul's workshop here on Oahu, and I could tell you about it, but mostly my takeaway from that workshop was that it was one of the best things I've ever done.
Oh,
and
wow.
I wanted to thank you, Paul. And I could talk about what happened, but Paul knows firsthand because he designed it and performed it and was, one of the two head people running it. And why don't you talk a little bit about what happened at the workshop?
Well, I'd say the most important thing that happened were people grew, they transformed, they connected, and got to get a little more in love with themselves first, and then with some participants or their beloveds or whoever they came with. Those are I think the key elements of really what happens during the workshop.
Okay, but I want to tell people a little bit more about the process.
The process,
right?
Okay. Well, the process is some didactic lectures and a series of exercises that we take people through. And I'd say we're educating the men on how to be present and how to hold a space to nurture and heal women, and also extend their pleasure thresholds. And that's the general focus of that beginner's workshop. It's focused on women receiving from a man without a man taking anything from them. There's not much for the men to receive except the gift of giving.
Right.
Which is a big gift.
And yes, and just so anybody's ever thinking of taking that workshop and you're a guy, there's also a follow-up workshop where it's more for the men to receive. Is that right?
Well, the workshop starts on a Friday evening, and the Saturday night is the kind of the build-up phase where people at that night have the option of doing the practice. And then Sunday is sharing of their experience.
Right.
And in the afternoon, we reverse it and start talking about men receiving.
Right.
But since the workshop's over on a Sunday night, we can't really follow through with that. People disperse, and it's up to the participants to get together on their own. We can't kind of hold the space and guide them into that. So the follow-up workshop is an intermediate workshop where the men receive, and the build-up is to Saturday night, and it's a reversal of it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It was so liberating. It was the first time ever, anywhere, that I saw frank discussion of physically what's going on inside our bodies sexually, where the sensitive nerves are. I mean, and it's just so bizarre that we're not taught that in school,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we're taught, some people, you could take a class on how to kill people,
right.
right? How to
Right.
shoot guns and things like that,
Sure.
right? The military is expert at doing that, but there's no mandatory or even optional place, mostly in schools, where you learn how to make love.
Or even be in relationship. I mean, let's simplify it even down.
Right.
I mean, not even into a sexual practice, just how to relate and communicate with another person intimately.
Right,
my
which
goodness.
is what my meat
Yeah.
and potatoes is now. What I do, right? I
Right.
work with couples. At least half of my practice is with couples, and 90% of them come in and say, "We have a problem with communication." Right.
I know that as I speak to the subject of Tantra and relationships and intimacy, my teacher and my co-teacher Judith, who you met, will say that a lot of it is the energy of love. Okay? but how do we express that energy of love? We can do it physically with touch, but it's also through communication. So I tend to have a little more focus on the communication, because I think through the practices of Tantra, you learn how to speak about how you feel and respond to how other people feel, and you get more connected to the emotional body rather than up here in our head and thinking.
Right, and it's amazing how people, most of the time, I don't want to generalize, but especially guys, don't know how they feel.
Well, yeah, and we were talking about that just as before we started
Yeah.
here, and that we're not, our emotions are driven from us. You know, big boys can't cry. You know, where you don't get sad. We're not supposed to get angry, or, you know, and so we're taught that it's not acceptable to express our emotions. We're shamed for them.
Right, so then we become totally unaware
So
of
we push them down, and we thwart them. I mean, it's interesting how as a child, a 2 or 3 year old, they can flip from sheer joy to raging anger in 30 seconds and back again. Because,
and then be giggling.
yeah, right, and because they live in their emotional body. They haven't been told it's unacceptable to do that. It's only when they get older and they get in social circles or in a family situation where they, no, you can't do that. It's not, it's big boys.
I don't think it's
that.
usually, it's not that explicit though, as like, no, you can't do that, right?
Well, sometimes it is, but it's all in the culture, you know,
Yeah.
and all in the television. It's just in the schools. It's, you know, it's just how our culture brings it up. Yeah. Same for the little girls. I mean, little girls can't get angry. It's not ladylike to be angry and be mad. I mean, so it goes both ways.
It's so counterproductive in
Oh,
terms of
gosh.
like, you know,
Yeah.
experiencing life.
Right. Right.
You know, so we walk through our lives not really experiencing them.
Right.
You know, we were talking also before about the whole practice of being present and mindful.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I noticed that is what, when you're in a physical relationship, a sexual relationship with another person, it's like being mindful both on the receiving end, so how does that feel? You know, focusing on how that feels and getting all of the other monkey mind stuff, you know, quieting that down so you can
Right.
really be present and feel what you're feeling.
Right.
And then on the other side, on the giving side, of really like, you know, so wow, check out her foot, you know, and really getting lost in that, or maybe the opposite of lost, being present with where you're at.
Right. Well, and it's when you say lost, I think you're talking about actually merging with the other person, and you're kind of losing yourself
Right.
because you're becoming one with somebody else.
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, then to me, that's what you're trying to do, because you're so in tune to what's happening with them. You're watching their face, you're watching their body, you're feeling their reaction, their breath, everything that's going on, that you can meet it. You meet that energy just exactly where it needs to be, so that you become one energy body that's doing a dance, a love-making dance.
Right, and I remember working with a couple the other day where let's say she was really upset, and typical guy response is, you know, what are you upset about? Let me just fix it, right?
Yeah,
Instead of,
I understand how you're upset.
you're upset. I see you look really upset.
Yeah, tell me why you're so upset. Let me.
Yeah, what does that feel like? Like,
Help me understand it.
yeah, right. Instead of trying to fix it.
Yeah. I see you're upset. It must feel terrible. Acknowledge it.
Why does that scare us so much when the other person is upset?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just telling you, I was reading this
it's
book
interesting.
about
Yeah.
attachment, right?
Yeah.
Maybe one of the things that happens is, oh, if you're upset, it means you're going to leave me, and then it's my fault.
Right. Well, often we take that on as our own story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really hard not to, because sometimes the other person is more than willing to let you take that on.
Well, sure.
It's your fault I'm crying.
Right. They don't take responsibility for their own emotion.
Right.
Right. And that transference happens all the time.
I remember somebody
projection.
once told me a story. That was his motivational speaker, and he told a story about his girlfriend who was very angry with him, and he was leaving, and she was raging at him, you know, if you leave now, I'm going to be angry at you for a really long time. And his response was, that must feel terrible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rather than, oh, in that case, I'm coming back, or,
Right.
you know,
That's going to feel
accepting
really,
blame for how she feels.
Right. Right. We're responsible for our own happiness, for our own sadness, and they're all honorable emotions. I mean, they've helped us survive in whatever shape we've taken them on, and they're great to acknowledge, and they've served us. I mean, you're living proof that whatever you've been angry, however you've been sad, has helped you get to be here right today. It's undeniable, and everybody. So we need to just learn to acknowledge them, feel them, and express them.
How do you help people begin to feel what they feel?
Well, most of the work I'm doing with people is body-based.
Yeah.
So we're actually tapping into their physical body to get sensation back.
Yeah, sometimes I've heard people say, so you're angry, where do you feel it?
Right.
That's hard.
But it's typical that you can find it.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know when you get angry where
Well, it depends on the situation.
It's different places.
Oh, yeah. At work, it tends to be in my shoulders and my back because I'm carrying a load. You know, if it's at home, it's going to be more in my gut and in my heart because there's so much more emotional attachment going on there.
So you can physically feel it in your chest.
Yeah.
So I'm like clueless. Yeah, you know, to me, it's like saying, oh, did you know you have a third ear in the back of your head? Can you feel it?
Right.
I don't even know where to begin.
Right. Well, I think we were talking out front earlier that too, for men in particular, I find getting them up and moving them around is very useful. So you can walk and just pace, because sitting still and trying to feel into your emotional body, it's difficult. You know, where all I feel is the seat on my butt. So I want to get up and move a little bit, get a little lighter and get a little movement. And you also find people will do things if you communicate with them. They'll slap their chest, or they'll hit their head, or they'll do physical gestures to give you a clue that where these things are being felt. You watch their breathing and you say, oh, it looks to me like you're feeling that in your chest as it's constricting your breathing. Oh yeah, it's a heaviness here. And then you got a clue, you can zoom in on it. And maybe it's something from the heart, and then it just gives you a way in to dig into it.
We have to dig into a small break. We'll be right back. Don't touch that mouse.
Aloha, I'm Kirsten Baumgart-Turner, and I'm fortunate to be able to host Sustainable Hawaii at thinktechhawaii.com. I hope you'll join in with us every Tuesday from 12 noon to 1 p.m. to see the interesting people we have to share with you their information. Aloha.
Aloha, welcome to Think Tech Hawaii. My name is Josh Green. I'm the host of a program called Healthcare in Hawaii. I'm a physician. I work in the emergency department on the Big Island. I also serve in the state senate, which, please don't hold that against me, doesn't detract from my television program. We speak about all the big healthcare issues in the state. We get together on Tuesdays from 2 o'clock till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we try to talk about the most important issues in healthcare. This is a terrific venue for people to learn about healthcare. There are many programs on this station. We broadcast it later, not just on the internet, but also on OC16. Thanks for joining us. Please be informed healthcare consumers.
So, welcome back. I'm Steve Katz. I'm still with Paul McCurdy, the Advanced Tantra educator. Paul, I don't remember, we probably covered it last time, but just to backtrack a little bit, how did you get involved in being a Tantra educator?
Oh, interesting, yeah. My wife and I have been practicing Tantra ourselves for about 12 years. And after 8 or 10 years, I kind of felt I could actually see the value in our relationship of what it did for us.
Did you take the beginner's workship with your wife?
Yes, we did.
That was your first experience?
No, that was many years later. Our first experience was in DVDs and YouTube and books, and practicing on our own and following exercises we could find, and just integrating them into our life.
You're so lucky. I mean, there just aren't many. I don't know many couples that just are so, what's the word, trusting with each other and safe and inquisitive and
True.
focused on pleasure.
Well, not only pleasure, we want to have something that we can share together and grow with together. And it's not necessarily a pleasure practice. I mean, there's a byproduct of increased
Right.
pleasure, which is great.
Uh-huh.
But it's also, primarily it's the connection. It's staying connected and giving us a growth path.
What does that look like day to day? I mean, do you have like a practice that you do together every day?
Oh yeah,
Yeah?
twice a day.
Wow. Can we describe that on a general audience?
Some of it. The evening practice is we trade foot massages and leg massage almost every night.
Wow.
So I mean, again, it's just a way for us to drop in and settle.
Do you chat while you do it? Or
No, I
it's
mean,
like a meditation?
we put the cell phones down, we turn the computers off, and I hope you're watching this, Deb. We try. Yeah.
It's hard to get to
Well,
turn
Yeah,
the stuff
we got to
off.
put the technology away, because
Yeah.
we got to be here with ourselves. you
Yeah.
know. A lot of time we'll do it while we're watching a TV show if we have something like that.
Uh-huh.
But it's typically Netflix as opposed to television.
Right.
So we do that in the evening, and then we have a practice in the morning that I wake her up with. But that I can't really describe in too much detail. But essentially, it's just a very gentle massage.
Uh-huh.
And I work on her back and on her leg a little bit and her head, and then she switches and gives me a short massage also. And,
Wow, it sounds
and
so
so
loving.
that way, we just start the day a little juicy, and connected, and we finish the day the same way, and
It sounds great.
it's awesome. It's awesome, yeah. And I mean, you start to.
How much time do you spend in the morning and night?
Oh, I'd say in the morning 15 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Maybe 20 at the most.
Combined for you
For
and
both
her.
of us, yeah. Because there's a balance between letting her sleep the maximum amount of time and getting to work on time.
Right.
So the longer you take her, the earlier you wake her up. It's like, it's too early. So
Yeah.
it's just that balance there. And but in the evening, and we can just take our time, and there's no big rush. And
Is it usually the last thing you'll do before you go to sleep?
close. It depends on the timing. Maybe
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, that whole thing, my wife finally convinced me to declare a digital day off
Ah, nice.
where it's still permitted to use my phone, but not to surf the web, just
Right,
to
just
do
for-
a phone thing,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah.
maybe a text, but
Yeah.
my laptop, which is usually has been my main go-to. Well, gee, I'm in between doing this and doing that. Now why don't I just sit down, check my email, and then I'm like off to the
Gone.
races.
You're gone, yeah.
Right, and it's just such a
You checked out.
time suck,
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah.
And so she, for a long time, has been doing a thing where on Sunday, if you send her an email, you'll get a bounce back. I'll be
off.
back on Monday.
Nice.
Right,
Yeah,
so
good for her. Yeah.
Yes, this day before yesterday, that Sunday was my second day in a row, and I've really learned that I'm really addicted.
Ah.
That it was hard to do it. Like I would have to catch myself, like in the act of walking towards the computer, and say, "Oh, can't do that."
Right, right.
Yeah, I think that a good part of the world is addicted.
True. Yeah. No, I have colleagues in Europe and in Asia, and we're coordinating events in different parts of the world. And sometimes, and Willie's right, at the moment, between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m. or 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. is like the best time for everybody to talk,
Yeah.
which is the wrong time here for the two of us, because
Oh, wow,
it's
yeah.
evening when we want to be together, and in the morning we're trying to get our day going. So it's even a little more challenging for us now.
Yeah,
And you just got to turn it off.
it's hard.
Because I mean, what did we do 10 years ago, 15 years ago? You didn't have it, and you survived, and you sent a fax or something, and it took a day, or it took longer, or you made a phone call. It'll still happen the same
But
way.
people are so connected to it. It's like when I'm having therapy sessions, people will not shut them off.
Oh, that's got to be a boundary.
Well,
I mean-
they'll say, I shut it off, and I'll say,
Okay, here, let me have it here, and I'll put it over there.
because they'll say, oh, well, it's in airplane mode. That's the same thing. And I'm going, no, it's not.
It's not. It's still gonna make noise. You're still gonna know it's coming in. It's distracting. Yeah. But that's it, being present, turning that stuff off, giving someone your attention, your
Right.
focus, just Steve Katz right here, right now. That you
Well, as a therapist, I think
Yeah.
that is more than half of what I do.
Right.
Because sometimes I feel like I'm not doing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And people go and they say, oh, that was really great.
Right.
And all I did was pay attention.
Yeah, right. Listen, active listening. You let them hear what they were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And that's like, that whole reflective
Yeah.
thing where you say back in the same or slightly different words
Right.
what the other person said.
Yeah.
It's like they tell you, what, I get really angry when she leaves the water running. And you say,
I
hear you say you get really, and they go, yeah.
Exactly.
Because I guess in regular life, people don't do that.
No, we're all concerned about what we're saying next,
Right.
as opposed to actually listening and empathizing with someone's concern.
And maybe that is connected to the body work that you do, is like people are too involved in what happens next. They're not in the present.
Right. Or they have a goal.
Or they have a goal, right? Is this leading me to orgasm?
Right, right. As opposed to just accepting what is right here, right now. And there's a lot of subtleties that are very juicy and very enjoyable if you let go of the goal.
Right, which to me is the paradox, right? Because
Right.
very often that's the way to get what you want, is to let go of
Right.
wanting what you want.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And you recall the grounding practice that we did in the workshop?
No, remind me.
Well, it's just about, connecting yourself down to Mother Earth energetically
Uh-huh.
and making sure that you're centered in your body and your core. You don't remember that one?
Keep explaining.
I'm disappointed, Steve, because that's a really
I was probably not centered.
okay. That's a super important practice, particularly for
Do
men.
it, let's do it.
Okay, so you're gonna focus on your spine, head to from your skull, your spine, and your sacrum. That's one unit of your body, one whole unit. It's the largest mass of your whole body, and it's the center of you. It's the core. And then you're energetically going to extend that down and send like an energetic cable down through your sacrum and through your feet, down into the earth, anchored at the center of the earth. And I'm going to go pretty fast because I don't know how much time we have. And that's a two-way conduit. You can discharge energy to it, and you can pull energy up from it. So now we're going to pull energy up from it, and we're going to fill the inside of our body, considering our skin is like a external balloon almost, just a layering. And we're going to push that energy up into our body and discharge anything that's not me. Stuff from work, stuff from home, anything that's not there, something you watched on television, whatever it is that you've taken on in the day, you're going to discharge it and throw it out so that all the energy in you is just you. And if you learn that practice and you take a pause when things get a little intense, it can bring you right back to center and right back to core. Because so often if you're in a work situation or you're listening to somebody's story and you start taking that story on as truth, when it's maybe they're speaking their story and maybe it's not even true to begin with, and you start to take that on and you get sucked into it. You ground. That's their story. That's not mine. How do I really want to respond to this? And then you give yourself a much better place to come to them and meet them.
It's funny, you asked me if I remembered the grounding exercise, and I really didn't. But as soon as you made it physical for me, it's like my body remembered.
Yeah.
And I remembered the feeling.
Yeah, we did that several times. I mean, every time we came
Right.
back to class after a break or a new thing, we did that practice, and I'd walk it through, much more detailed than that.
Right, yeah, but
Because-
the whole thing of sending it down into the earth and then
right.
bringing it up,
Right.
that I remember now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a good thing to do in the morning. First
Yeah.
thing, it's just shake everything off. Okay, get yourself centered, and that'll stay with you. And if you can get that practice in you, you can take it with you as you move around in the day, no matter where you're at, and just refer back to it. Drop into it quick. Okay, now I'm grounded. I'm centered here. I can give you my attention. You throw everything else out. Boom. What are we talking about here?
I think it might be really helpful dealing with difficult people. I mean, we all.
Oh, that's my other job, you recall. You know, I do a lot of difficult people.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm also a resident manager of a very large high-rise.
Aha.
I have 1,000 captive customers who are constantly at me for services. So everything's our fault. Everything is, you know, I have to do everything for everybody, you know. But so many problems are not my problems. They're other people's. They have to solve them themselves.
Yeah. So there must be a knack to not letting it become your problem, but not being disrespectful to the person in front of you, or else you're going to get punched in the nose.
Well, it's that active listening is, you know, where you go. It's the nonviolent communication, you know, the NVC, and you observe, recognize the feeling, ask for a need, and make a request.
Let's do a little
Yeah.
theater.
Okay.
All right. So, like, I'm in your building, right? I'm one of the guys in your building, and there's no hot water.
Ooh.
There's no hot water. When am I going to get hot water?
Yeah, that's a common one. And I understand.
What? What, are you going to call somebody or what?
We're going to fix it very soon. And I understand it's really frustrating not to have hot water.
Frustrating? I can't take a shower. I can't wash the dishes.
Right. So, and you know, I realize you need hot water. Can you give me 15 minutes to find this?
All right, now I'm gonna come look for you.
That's fine. You do that, and I'll look, and I'll have a very distinct answer for why you have no hot water and how long it will take once you get it. For you to get it.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Then you go back and grab it.
Yeah, right. Then I go back. Then I go back and I shake all that off, and I start with the next one. Yes. Yeah. Smudge the room and get that energy out. You know. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, and I tell people that in that business, I've been in that business 25 years, that you know my skin has gotten so thick that an elephant gun couldn't bring me down. It just bounces off, man.
But then, in order to be loving and present, you have to be able to shed that thick skin somehow.
That's right. So in your case, in my office, I have a couch. So people come and they deal with me typically across the desk. I will move to a couch, and then we can sit side by side, and we can connect. And that is a much more happy in space than with this wall between us of this desk, this 4 feet gap. And it diffuses people very quickly.
So the physical arrangement is important.
Yeah. Yeah. And I have the luxury, and I have that luxury of having a couch in my office. I mean, truly I do. It is a luxury. I have a very large office and it's quite comfortable. Yeah.
Well, this is your chance not to go down on the couch, but to listen to somebody else, and we'll be right back in 60 seconds or so.
Hi, I'm Donna Blanchard. I'm the host of Center Stage on the Think Tech Hawaii Digital Network. On Center Stage, every Wednesday at 2 p.m., we talk to artists of all different ilk, playwrights, novelists, poets, singers, sculptors, you name it. We've had all kinds of interesting people on, and we always talk about what they do and how they do it. And what I find most interesting, we talk about why they do what they do, the process of art, what it does for us and our humanity. I hope that you will come and join us, and maybe you'll get inspired to bring out your creative spirit as well. That's Center Stage on Wednesdays at 2 o'clock on the Think Tech Hawaii Digital Network.
Aloha. This is Reg Baker. I'm the host of Business in Hawaii. We air every Thursday at 2 o'clock on thinktechhawaii.com. We broadcast from the ThinkTech studios in downtown Honolulu, and we talk about positive and successful companies in Hawaii. People that have been successful despite the obstacles. They all have a good story to tell. Hopefully we'll see you on Thursday at 2 o'clock. Aloha.
Welcome back. I'm Steve Katz. I'm still with Paul McCurdy, and we were talking about dealing with difficult people and growing thick skin, and then being able to shed the thick skin to be present for those who you want to connect to. You know?
Right.
It's a talent.
It is. It's a skill that has to be practiced.
Speaking of which, you've got some events coming up, you were telling me.
Yeah, we have a short workshop on April 30th at the Bodhi Tree Meditation Center.
Oh, that's in New Oahu?
I think it's Kalihi up Liliha,
Uh-huh.
Judd.
Oh, right,
Judd,
right, right,
over
right.
that way, yeah. And that's 11 to 5, and that's on some somatic practices. It's really how to communicate and talk to a potential partner about how you want to have a nurturing session of any sort, from just sitting here and just taking a hand and saying, let me connect with you here, because that's all I can do, to, anything as far as you want to go. And it's all clothed, there's no nudity, it's all very safe, but it will give a lot of practice for dialogue on how to create an environment that you can be safe in and still grow a practice. So that's April 30th.
Uh-huh.
And then we have the beginners weekend that you attended. We're repeating that in November.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, November 18, 19, 20.
Oh,
We've
wow.
got that
Because
scheduled.
some people have asked me. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when I took it last time, a colleague of mine said, let me know when you're going to do it.
Yeah.
So you already have dates?
Yeah, November 18, 19, and 20.
Oh, that's
Right.
great.
Yeah,
That's
so we
great.
have that coming up.
I highly recommend that to
Yeah.
everybody. That was really great.
Yeah.
And you said you're going to Costa Rica?
Oh, I just got back.
Oh, you got
I got
back.
but I'm going again in September.
Right, uh-huh.
One of my colleagues invited me to teach there, and we did a weekend workshop, and it was wonderful. It was very challenging for me, very tiring, because I'm listening in Spanish, communicating in English, listening to the translation, and
Wow.
that was a focus in being present. Because I had to stay on the whole time to know when I needed to step in and understand what was really going on. But it was also a great study in reading people's body language and their energy, because I don't get all the words, but I can see how they're responding and how they're coming to it. And that was really powerful. That was great. You can really get a sense of people's energy when you stop listening and just observe. That was really fun.
Yeah, because so many times the words don't contain the important message.
Or they don't match what the body is saying.
Right, right.
Yeah, and that's really important. They may be saying yes when their body is saying no, or vice versa. And
Like when somebody goes, of course I love you!
yeah, kind of like that. Exactly. Right. Right. So
That's taken from real life.
right. Yes, I'm sure it is. It was very authentic. You've heard that one before. And we're going back in September to Costa Rica and repeating that. We're trying to build. I'm helping this woman that I'm teaching with build community there in Costa Rica, and we're right in the city. We're working with the locals. We're not bringing North American gringos down to have a luxury retreat something. No, this is for the local people, and it was really well received, and we were really happy that we pulled it off, and we're going to do more.
It's pretty cool. So this is like spreading around the world.
Right. And then I'm going to Barcelona in June,
Wow.
teaching a men's workshop for 3 days, and there'll be a women's concurrently, and then on the last day we'll bring the men and women together for some final exercises.
So what do you do at a men's workshop?
We're going to be working on the elements of presence and leadership, non-competition, cooperation among men.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, it is a tough one, but it's really important, because we can help each other far more and lift each other up better than by competing with each other. Because there's enough for everybody. There truly is.
Right.
There is enough. We don't need to compete so much. So we're going to work on those components. We'll talk about male and the masculine energy. We'll talk about some of the Tantra practices for men, ejaculatory choice.
That's what I'm still practicing, like, strengthening that muscle down
To
there.
get those PC muscles strong. Yeah, you got to work on those. That's right. That's the key. So
It's kind of like learning how to wiggle your ears. First you have to figure out
where it is,
where the muscles
where the muscles are. Exactly. Got to find them. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's my travel schedule. In addition, I travel to California once a month for my own classes, my own learning.
Oh, wow.
I take an energy class in Berkeley once a month.
Is that related to Tantra?
Well, it helps because
Uh-huh.
it's studying human energy and our archetypes, the Jungian archetypes, and how we pattern, how we block, and how we, all the different things we do to protect ourselves, emotionally, physically, and just energetically. different patterns we run when we're in high stress situations, which relationships tend to be. So I'm finding it very helpful, and it's really interesting. So
The energy thing, because I can't see it, you know,
Right.
sometimes I have a hard time.
yeah, I understand. Yeah, I wish I'd brought my pendulum with me.
Why? What would you do with your pendulum?
I have you hold your hand out, and you can make it spin with the energy emanating from your hand.
And I can decide which way it's going to spin?
No, you turn your hand over, it'll spin the other way. So if your hand's up, it'll go clockwise. You turn your hand over, it'll go counterclockwise.
And why is that?
It's just the way our bodies work.
No, but I mean,
energetically.
what?
So there's an energy field being emitted from your hand right now. You can't see it, but that doesn't mean it's not there. You can't see
Is
it.
it
You can't-
electrical energy?
It's electromagnetic.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Magnets. I
Yeah.
get that.
Right.
But it's so tiny that we don't notice it.
Well, that's not. We can't see it, and
Yeah.
maybe you can't feel it because we're not putting our attention to it. I mean, how often do you try to feel it? Probably never.
Because I didn't even think about it being there.
Right. But a heart monitor, what is it? The EKG. That's what it's measuring. Your
Electrical pulses.
electrocardiogram. Right.
Right.
Because your heart generates a very large magnetic field, largest one in your body, and they can measure that 4 feet away from your body. So, and electromagnetic fields extend infinitely. I mean, just because we can't measure it doesn't mean it's not there. So you can actually, our hearts are trying to get to attune right now on their wavelengths just because of our proximity. They do it on their own. And energetically, we're matching. It's a fascinating subject.
Is that why women who live together end up with the same curious?
Exactly. It is. It is. It's very true. They get on the same cycle. Their bodies start to attune.
I remember somebody who was teaching me how to do healing touch.
Mm-hmm.
She did this exercise where she would ask me to close my eyes, and she would run her hands down my body
Mm-hmm.
and to ask me if I could tell when she was touching me. And sometimes I would open my eyes and say, yeah, you're touching me, and I'd look, and she wasn't. She would be, this far away.
Right.
And I'd think, well, that was a trick.
No.
And she was trying to show me that, yeah, it's because, of the energy coming off my body that you can just proximity
Right.
change someone's energy. I forget what she called it, but she would do this thing where,
That's the concept behind Reiki and
yeah,
a lot of other healing modalities. Barbara Brennan is probably the top of the food chain, so to speak, of the healing arts with working with energy.
Yeah.
And she has a school in Florida now that's progressed, and they'll teach people how to do this sort of thing. It's fascinating.
yeah,
So, yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
and you wonder why. When I'm talking to you about it, it's very real to me. It makes sense. Why doesn't Western science adopt this stuff?
That's a big question, Steve. I don't know. No money in it. No, for pharmaceuticals, there's no money for
Right.
for surgeries. I mean, if everybody had their energy bodies in alignment, each of their chakras was balanced, we'd be so less diseased.
Right.
It would put half the medical profession out of business. And if you ate right, had balance in your life, exercised properly, stayed healthy.
Which
I mean,
gets me back
my
to the
goodness.
question that I asked you out there before is, why is it that we know what the things are that are good for us to do, and yet we don't do them? Like, I know I'd be much better in every way if I spent, a half an hour a day meditating.
Right.
But it's, I get into it and I drop it, I get into it and I drop it. Why is it so much easier to do the things that are bad for you?
I don't know. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
I always wonder why can't cake and cookies and ice cream be healthy for us? I love that stuff. That's what I want to eat. But of course, I eat kale and spinach and chard and grass and sawdust, and that's what's good for me, because that's what my body really needs.
So unfortunate.
I know, it really is, isn't it? It's so disappointing.
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
and then the same
sometimes-
with exercise and mindfulness. I mean, I think part of it is that we're not taught that there's value to it. It's not modeled for us. I think if our parents were doing it and we could see and feel the value, you'd do it.
Well, also, there seems to be a certain threshold where it does become something you want to do.
Yeah.
Like, I've been running pretty much since my early 20s. I run every day.
Right.
I mean, I've had some gaps when my kids were little.
Yeah.
This wasn't enough
Or
time.
you get injured or something.
Yeah, or you get injured,
Yeah.
right? But, at least for the last 10 years, I pretty much I managed to run 5 or 6 days a week.
Right.
And it's not a chore.
Right.
It's
You look forward
something
to it.
I absolutely look forward to.
Yeah.
And I get very frustrated if there's no time to do it.
Right. I know
It would
exactly
really
what
be
you mean.
nice if all the other things that, like now I've gotten into writing every morning, a kind of journaling thing. And yeah, if all the rest of the things that I know are good for me, I could do, like if, I went back to my vegan diet, I know I'd probably live longer.
Right. Well, sometimes I read what's good for us, and you look at this practice and this one and this one and this one and this one and this one, and pretty soon it's just a full-time job to do all that.
Yeah.
I don't have that much time in the day, truthfully, when you have to shop and feed,
Right.
do kids and clean and cook and work, and all of a sudden your time is limited. So it's really finding those little slivers of time to make the time for yourself, because you know what? You're worth it. You really are. And everybody has to, and that self-care is one of the things we neglect so often. We're giving to other people. Women are, they pour it out. But to give to themselves can be a real challenge. Receiving is tough for a lot of people.
Yeah, and so when I do have these little, snippets of time, I have to remember that it's really not too cool just to, go online.
Or turn on the TV.
Or turn on the TV.
Yeah.
It seems like for a lot of people, going online has replaced the TV. It's the same junk.
Well, but
Yeah.
how many people play the video games?
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
what a colossal time waster that is, when you could be doing something for self-improvement or exercise, or just so many other things, connecting with somebody, in real life.
Right.
Yeah,
That seems to be, people have to make special time to do that.
Yeah, it's an odd thing, isn't it? It's like, wow, I have to make time to go actually see somebody and, touch them and be next to them and
Right.
communicate face to face.
Yeah.
And we're not supposed to live that way. With a video game, we're supposed
Right.
to live connected in a community. That's how our bodies are built. We're mammals, and we have this emotional body that and we're prey animals typically,
Mhm.
originally, as
Right.
and we've evolved to be the hunter, but originally the body was not, and we were down on the ground on all fours, and we were prey.
Well, I pray that we can do this again, but our time for today is just about gone, and I just wanted to thank you again,
Well, thank you
Paul,
for having me. I
for
appreciate
coming.
it.
It's really, really
Yeah.
good to see you again,
Yeah.
and come back for the next wonderful episode of Shrink Wrap Hawaii. Aloha.